Ever heard of a book so important that an entire nation just decided to call it by the author's first name? Today, we're diving into the incredible story of how the biblical King David became so central to the identity of Ethiopia that his name literally replaced the title of one of the world's most famous holy books.
So take a look at this. This is the Book of Psalms, or, that's what most of us call it. In Ethiopia, manuscripts just like this one are the most common handwritten books in the entire country. For centuries, this was the very first school book for kids. It's how they learned to read and write. It's absolutely foundational.
And that question, well, it gets right to the heart of what we're talking about today. Because even though the content might seem familiar, the way Ethiopians refer to this book is totally unique, and it reveals something so much deeper about their culture.
Yeah, that's right. They just call it David. That's the Amharic word for David. The author's name completely took over the title. It's not the Psalms of David, it's just David. And in this explainer, we're going to unpack exactly how that happened and what it tells us about the power of a story to shape an entire nation.
Okay, first up, Ethiopia's most popular book. More than just Psalms, it's a primer for a nation. To really get why David is so important here, you've got to understand the unique role his book plays. And trust me, it's way more than just a collection of hymns.
So the Ethiopian David is this amazing collection. It's got the 151 Psalms, sure, but it often includes other key texts, like the Song of Songs. But get this, so many of these old manuscripts, the same ones used to teach kids, remember, they start with a direct personal prayer. Come to me, David, King of Israel. It's like you're calling on the author himself before you even start reading. How cool is that? Next up, the king and his instrument, and how Ethiopians have pictured David for centuries. You see, this deep respect for David isn't just in the words on the page. Nope, it's a huge, consistent theme in Ethiopian art. And the way they've painted him for hundreds of years tells you everything you need to know about his status.
And this piece right here, it's a perfect example. In Ethiopian art, you almost never see David as just a humble shepherd. No way. He is always a king. He's on a throne, he's got royal attendants holding the ceremonial umbrella and the whisk, all these symbols of major power and prestige. He is the picture of ultimate authority.
And that instrument he's always playing, the bagana, well, that's not just some random harp. According to Ethiopian tradition, it was a gift straight from God to David. And because of that divine connection, it became this incredibly high-status instrument. It was for nobles, for sacred ceremonies, definitely not for everyday people.
Okay, let's get to the real core of this story. Section 3, a prophecy for a nation. The verse that changed everything. This is how a king from another land becomes Ethiopia's very own national prophet. And believe me, this is where the connection becomes absolutely unbreakable.
So in Ethiopia, David wasn't just seen as a king or a musician. To them, he was a prophet. As the author of this book, he wasn't just writing pretty poems, he was channeling divine truth, and that elevated him to a whole new level. His words had incredible weight, especially one particular verse that seemed to be about Ethiopia's future.
So, what did he prophesy about Ethiopia? Well, hidden away inside the book they call Dawit is one single powerful line. Just one verse, but it became a cornerstone of national pride. It was basically a declaration of the country's special destiny.
And this is it. Ethiopia shall stretch her hands towards God. From Psalm 68, that single line written by David was seen as nothing less than a divine prophecy. It was a prediction that Ethiopia had this special role, this direct line to God, and it was foretold thousands of years before. Wow. That verse completely cemented David's status. See, he wasn't just some foreign king anymore. He was the prophet who saw Ethiopia's sacred destiny. And the power of that idea is just timeless. I mean, look at this painting from 1979. This was made during an anti-religious communist government, and yet there's David, right in the front, playing his begana, a core part of the nation's story.
All right, next up, saint, ancestor, and peacemaker. We're talking about weaving David right into the fabric of faith, because his importance goes even deeper than just that prophecy. He's literally woven into the fabric of Ethiopian faith, as a saint and as a holy ancestor.
Okay, look at this scene. This shows the covenant of mercy, which is an absolutely central story in Ethiopian Orthodox Christianity. And who do we see in heaven for this massive moment? You guessed it. Over on the left, there's David, playing his bagana. Why? Because he's the ancestor of the Virgin Mary, So he's right there, providing the soundtrack for a moment that is the linchpin of the entire nation's faith.
And it gets even more detailed. Traditional Ethiopian commentaries actually list out the 7 divine gifts God gave David when he was anointed. And look at this list: kingdom, priesthood, power, victory, the bagana, yep, the instrument itself was a gift, healing, and of course prophecy. This shows you just how deeply they thought about every single aspect of who he was. And his influence is still alive and literally moving today. You see this sacred dance? It's performed by church clerics, and it's a huge part of Ethiopian worship. Well, it's understood to be a direct reenactment of King David's own joyful dance before the Ark of the Covenant. So he's not just a historical figure, he's a living model for how to worship right now. Okay, now for the final piece of the puzzle. Section 5, a name reserved for kings. The ultimate sign of reverence. This is going to bring us right back to where we started, with his name, and show us its deep, deep connection to royal power in Ethiopia.
Okay, check out the number 1. It's reserved for the first King David in Ethiopian history. But wait, it's not the biblical one. See, unlike a lot of other places, the name David is actually pretty rare for regular people in Ethiopia. For hundreds of years, it had this royal vibe. It was basically saved for kings.
And this all goes back to Ethiopia's national epic, the Kebre Negast. It tells the story of the nation's founder, Menelik I, the son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. Well, according to this massive national story, Menelik had another name, and that name was David, which means Ethiopia's very first king was effectively David I.
And that is why historical kings in Ethiopia, like the emperor you see here, start their count at David II. They saw themselves as direct heirs to this incredible legacy, where the name of the biblical David was passed down through Solomon to the very first king of their nation. So when you put it all together, calling the book of Psalms David is so much more than just a quirky little habit. It's a huge statement. It's a declaration of a nation's sacred beginnings, its prophetic future, and its royal bloodline, all wrapped up in that one powerful name. It makes you wonder, right? How does a single story written thousands of years ago come to define the art, the faith, and even the political identity of a modern nation? What other stories like this are hiding right in front of us, just waiting to be understood?